Regarding Atzilus, it says, right in the top line on page Zayin, Sefer Yitzirim, Midos on Esev, Shein Lam Sof.
Translation?
The measure is 10, which do not have any sof, any end.
Any?
End. And this is where we're going to start, second line from the top on page Zayin. Actually, we'll start from the top line on page Zayin. And what we said at the end of that line, that the whole principle of hagvul is only as the hagvul of the kelim is only as it manifests in Bria. Avo ba'atzilus gufo, but within Atzilus itself, einon b'bchinas hagvul. They are not in the realm, in the aspect of hagvul. I gave the moshel for this. When you observe somebody writing, you see him writing with his hand. When he writes, he's not even aware that he's writing with his hand. He's writing. And it's part of his entire being, of his whole being. There's an expression for a craftsman. People say he has good hands. He has good hands. That whole expression, he has good hands, is meaningless to the possessor of the good hands. If he has a good tool, he has a good tool. Having good hands is not a real manner for him to relate to his talent. This is an extremely important concept to relate to. As we said all along, when a person is walking, what you're observing is that he's walking with his feet, but he's not aware he's walking with his feet. He is actually occupied in something beyond anything that the feet can even understand and relate to, right? He is involved not in walking, but in getting someplace. This is what motivates the feet, and that is what inspires the feet to move. Not at all the koyach of the feet.
They're inspired by it, but they have no concept of it.
They're inspired not internally, that they are inspired. This is what activates them from a higher source. The whole system is representing, symbolically represented in this, which you pointed out, that breathing does not take place by your action, but it is activated into you. And this is what we're explaining. Yes, it becomes quite difficult to understand and put everything and get a handle on each aspect. But it is, so to speak, the manner on us that our Sechel should be able to discern, identify each element in its own way, in its own truth. Although, as a result of that, the Sechel will have to say things which are self-contradictory in the same sentence. He says this is limited, but it's not limited. It's 10, but there's no end to it.
Okay, and the reason for this contradiction is because the Sechel is trying to say what?
Sechel to understand something which is not even within the realm of Sechel. Sechel relates to something which exists on the worldly level, but it's not worldly. It's something which is provided from above. Even in the human being, we have that aspect. As you pointed out, the nefesh element is not a worldly element, although it functions and activates a worldly element, the goof and the feet and the hands and mouth and everything. How worldly is the goof? How worldly is the hands and the feet and the mouth? We can replicate it in a dummy. In a robot. And yet we say, when a robot walks or talks, it's not the same at all as when a human being walks or talks. Okay, so maybe continue. All right, perhaps I will give you another point.
It's okay.
No, I'll give you another point. The truth is,
Wait, this was in response to
the difficulty that he is encountering
and that is that
is trying to grasp, and he cannot grasp it.
mhm.
And I'm saying no, but you can grasp it. If I can grasp it, so what's the point of learning it?
Okay.
And moreover, if I cannot grasp it, when do I say I understand it? I understand. What does it mean I understand? I didn't grasp it. How do I understand it? So the answer is that Sechel itself, the whole phenomenon of Sechel, which is uniquely human, doesn't exist anyplace else, in any other creature, even though they are alive. Does not exist in any other creature. And what is the basis? Why does it exist? In what way? What does it mean to exist in a human being? It doesn't exist anyplace else. It's in the world. Why can't it exist anyplace else? The answer is, it is in the world, but it's not world-based. The world does not support Sechel. It's not built on the worldly parameters. It's created by the nefesh. And we are privileged to obtain a a function, so to speak, an inspiration coming directly from the nefesh. And this is what it means I understand. I understand what the nefesh is telling me, essentially. But it's a nefesh telling me, it's not my goof, not my experience. I cannot experimentally get to this. I can get to this experimentally within the Sechel realm. Experimentally in Sechel means I have a kasha and I have a teres. I have a kasha and a teres. But this is not a grasp on the physical level. This is why the Misholim are about. The Misholim are a wonderful thing because what the Eibusher created is that the highest inyonim are present right here in the physical world. But we don't pay attention to them because we are focused on the physical. But I pointed out, in every aspect, the human being is not physical. On the contrary, breaking away. All right. Okay, so second line from the top of Yudzayin at the end. It's explained elsewhere. Shezehu, that this which we quoted from Sefer Yitzirah just a moment before, that this is, they counted as 10, but Elohim Seif, but effectively it's 10 without end. Shezehu, that this principle that has no end, Gam, pardon me, bebechinas hakelim. This is true even in the bechina of kelim, not only in the oil, that the oil has no end. That's taken for granted. But even in bechinas hakelim, she'ein lehem gevul k'mei she'en b'atzilus. That the kelim do not possess, or not represent a gevul, a limit, as the kelim are within atzilus. So in atzilus there is no such thing as gevul. Yet there is an infant kelim. This is the challenge coming in the next line. And again, we have a motion for this. And the motion is the human being. The human being is a wonder. The Torah says, as Beis said, I'm going to create a human being. And what is that? What does he stand for? B'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu. He is reflecting us the way we are l'mayla. He's a creature, and it's only in a goof, in a physical world, but he has a quality that is reflective kidmuseinu. He's similar to us. This is why the human being is a phenomenal asset, so to speak, a phenomenal resource for understanding Yonah and Torah. And as we pointed out before we even go on, because we already said this, that even though we write with our hand, but you're not aware of your hand, you're writing. You focus on writing, not on moving the hand.
This writing, this mashal of writing is saying that what? There's a specific physical action going on, but it's much.
He's not even focused on the physical action. He's focused on what he wants to say.
Which is much more infinite than.
It's infinite. It's a neshama thing. It's a seichel thing.
And so too, the human being is.
This is the human being.
He's a creation, yet he's godly.
Well, That's not the point. Is we have a moshel from the human being to understand the way the yonim are l'mayla. And this is something which is within our experience. And we say that a person who writes by being aware of his hand movement is writing like a robot. There is an aspect, there is a certain condition in the person's mind, a shortfall in his mind, but he's actually talking like a robot. Never. This is something which exists, especially these days. It became so prevalent. Where does it show itself? Normally, when you ask a question, A asks a question to B. B takes a question and reflects on it. Takes it into consideration internally to himself, and comes up with an answer. He does not answer because there is a question, because he was asked a question. He answers because he wants to answer. And somebody, Rahman lacks this in him. You could tell right away. You ask him a question, the answer comes. It's a correct answer, but the answer is spontaneous from the question. He gives the answer because the question was presented, not because he is giving an answer. And that's why the tone of his voice is completely incongruent with the question. What's your name? Chaim. How old are you? 20, 12. Don't incongruent with the question. Which is a shortcoming, Rahman Islam. But as a human being, the simplest thing that he does is connected to the infinite element. This is what we say. That in Atzilus, the Kelim themselves are betat gvul. But nevertheless, yet still, if the Kelim are betat gvul, so we have what we're challenged over here is to understand how Atzilus is a mamutza. So we are saying that the gvul in the Kelim first comes up in Biyah. In Atzilus it is without gvul. So therefore, in other words, Atzilus does not have the gvul, does not have the Kelim. Therefore, how is Atzilus provide for Biyah? As Atzilus and Metzmutza for Biyah. So he says, Mekomokon, but yet still, Gam k'moi shehem ba'atzilus, even as they are, the Kelim, are in Atzilus, heim b'vchinas mitzius, midos v'koiches. They have this aspect, that they are midos and koiches, and they are not oiris, it is not the nefesh. There's a mitzius, there's a presence of koiches and midos. And this is why the Kelim, this is the, so to speak, the Bria within Atzilus. And this is why Atzilus is capable, is suited to be a memutza for Bria. Because Atzilus has something akin to Bria. Not in the terms of the limit, in the terms of its limited capacity, But in terms of mitzias, the identity of midas and koiches. Coming back to the human being, in our motion, so we said yesterday, when a person gives tzedakah, tzedakah in the world is defined as chesed. But the person who gives tzedakah does not solicit to himself, do I have chesed? Where is my midas chesed? So I can give tzedakah. That's not at all what's taking place. There is a mitzias of chesed, mitzias of mid of chesed, but it's not an independently functioning element. How do we know that there is a mitzias of midas chesed? He has two hands, and when he wants to do chesed, he acts with his hand. So therefore, within Atzilus itself, there is also the kelim are a metzias of midas, for specific midas, and metzias of koiches, but not in the defined and a limited fashion as they are in Bria. They're part of Atzilus. Aval ha'oiros, this is in kelim. Aval ha'oiros. But the oiros einam b'bchinas mitzias midas. The oiros are not even to be qualified as mitzias of midas. There is not a presence of midas in the oiros. Shaharei heim, since that they are the oiros are ha'ora me'erein sov hamatzil. They are really a ha'ora of the Ayin Soif Hamatzi, of the Ayin Soif. Ayin Soif is Ayin Soif. There is no midas and koiches, definitive midas and koiches. She'ena begedas midas klal. It's a ha'ora which is not begeder midas, but in the realm of midas at all. Because there is ha'ora from Ayin Soif. And Ayin Soif is not begeder midas klal. And similarly, if Ayin Soif is not begeder midas, k'moikein ha'ora gam kein ein begeder midas. Therefore, the ha'ora is also, the ha'ora of Ayin Soif is also not begeder midas. All right, there's more to be said, but who knows? Any more will be maybe too much. So far, we are on the same boat a little bit.
We're still sitting up.
We're sitting up. the mashal that we have from the human being requires that we understand it correctly. But if we understand it correctly, we have a very, very clear and a wonderful means of understanding this.
The mashal where we said that Sechel is uniquely human.
That Sechel is uniquely human. That Sechel is something which is above world. Although you understand things in the world. Let us go back to the mashal of the host and the guest, which I think we all subscribe to, we all relate to that. We all sense that there is something special, something undefinable that's taking place in that phenomenon. At the same time, so we say we have the host and the guest. What does this situation bring out from the host? You say his presence is all important, but nevertheless, how does he express his being a host? By being present? No. He expresses it by serving a lunch. This serving of a lunch is rooted in that quote unquote super quality of being a host. In other words, if he gives him lunch because he has rachmanas on him that he is hungry, that's not the relationship between a host and a guest. The lunch represents, on a lower level, the significance of their relationship with the host and the guest. This significance, this representation within the reality of the host itself is a non-presence. There's not an identifiable element in the host concept that says, okay, that is the lunch. And yet, this is where it's coming from. And it is in a certain sense representative of that. The host element itself, the very reality of the host element, does not contain any means of expression. Yes, indeed, his very presence is the reality. It in itself. But then it goes into Kalim. And there is a so to speak, that relationship on a worldly level. And there are different forms of capturing this in you. Which is called a ha'ora of that. He's not giving him lunch because he's he's hungry, but we said this is not what we're talking about. He's giving lunch because I'm your host and you're my guest, because we have some kind of a super relationship.
This would be in the Mimer where it just spoke the Or of Atzilus. It says because there's no midos in or in Sof, there's no midos in the Or of Atzilus. So would this be like the Kalim? Because here we're saying the host. We say there's no reality of a meal within the host. This is more like to see the worldly aspect of Atzilus.
Okay. Now, yes, but it's rooted in Atzilus. What brings it out from the host? The host says, I'm going to serve you lunch. Which means that it exists also in Atzilus, but not in a finite, limited fashion.
Right. So is this comparable to the Oros or to the Kalim?
The way it is in the house, it's a Oros. In essence. But then when he says, okay, I'm going to serve you lunch, that's already the Kalim. And this Kalim also are without definition at that point. When do they become defined? When they reach the recipient.
Become defined when they reach the recipient.
Or even when they reach the recipient, or when they consider it from a perspective of the recipient. Mitzad the host, there is no defined presence.
Even though the host is the one who's prepared the meal and set the table.
And that's when he was flying away to reach the recipient.
So that would
that's when he considers the recipient. But what initiated it within him? Why does he think that giving a meal would express by being a host? There's no mitzvah. Again, as I said, he gives a meal not because the guest is hungry. It's completely initiated from within himself, from within the host. You understand what I'm saying? Not because of the need of the guest. Then it's a completely different thing. It's initiated from the host. What he perceives that this is a good thing, this is a meaningful thing. At the host level, then there was no mitzvah. Okay, this is it for this morning. This is it for this morning. Yep.